I never believed in love at first sight, but something about Daniel felt different from the start. We met at a quiet bookstore downtown, where I went to clear my head after a long week. He asked for a book recommendation, and we ended up talking for hours. It wasn't forced, it was natural, almost like we'd known each other before. That night, we exchanged numbers, and the next morning, he sent me a good morning text that made me smile like a teenager. Conversations flowed easily, and within a week, we were inseparable. He was thoughtful in ways I didn't even know I needed. He'd remember my coffee order, send flowers on a random Tuesday, and talk about life with an honesty that felt rare. With him, I laughed more, slept better, and believed, maybe for the first time, that love wasn't just something that happened to other people. He opened up about his past, how he'd been hurt, how he didn't trust easily, and how he saw something safe in me. I listened, held space for him, and silently promised I wouldn't hurt him the way others had. We weren't just dating, we were planning. Weekend getaways, meeting his sister, talking about living together. It felt serious but never heavy. He told me I made him feel alive again. And truthfully, he did the same for me. My friends noticed the change. I was glowing, lighter. Even my mom commented on how happy I sounded. For the first time in years, I was looking forward to the future instead of bracing for disappointment. One evening, he made me dinner after a stressful day at work. We danced in the kitchen to a song I loved. He whispered, "I'm lucky to have you." I believed him. I had always guarded my heart, but Daniel made it feel safe to trust again. I let him in fully, without hesitation. I didn't know it then, but I was standing on a ledge, ready to fall, and I had no idea the ground beneath me was already crumbling. When he looked at me, I saw a future. I imagined him beside me through everything, birthdays, hardships, even old age. And maybe that's what made it so painful later. Because when someone makes you feel seen, cherished, and chosen, you forget that it's still possible for them to leave. At the time, none of that mattered. All I knew was that I was in love. And for the first time in a long while, I truly believed it was mutual. As weeks turned into months, our bond grew deeper. Daniel and I started spending nearly every day together. He'd stay over on weekends, leave small notes tucked into my books, and even started leaving a spare toothbrush at my place. It felt like we were building something solid, something lasting. We began talking seriously about moving in together. He said it would make sense, especially since we were already acting like a couple that lived under one roof. I agreed. It felt right. My family adored him. My sister called him charming, and my dad appreciated how respectful and attentive he was. We attended my cousin's wedding together, and everyone joked that we'd be next. He laughed along, holding my hand a little tighter each time someone made a comment. On social media, we looked picture perfect, and in person, it wasn't far from the truth, or so I thought. But not everything was flawless. I started to notice small things. He'd flinch slightly when I asked to use his phone. He never let it out of his sight. He'd say he was tired, but stay online for hours after we stopped texting. He started coming over late or canceling plans at the last minute. At first, I blamed work stress. He worked in marketing and deadlines could be demanding. I convinced myself he just needed space, that every relationship went through phases like this. One night, he said he needed to fly out for a business trip. It was sudden, barely planned. I asked for details and he became defensive, saying I didn't trust him. I let it go, but something didn't sit right. He came back with gifts, acted normal, but his eyes felt distant. Still, I brushed it off. My best friend, Layla, noticed my anxiety. She told me she had a weird feeling about him. Said he seemed too smooth, too careful. She wasn't trying to plant doubt, just wanted me to pay attention. I told her Daniel would never do anything to hurt me. She didn't argue, but the look in her eyes stayed with me. One evening, while Daniel was in the shower, his phone buzzed nonstop. I wasn't trying to snoop, but something compelled me to look. The messages were from someone saved as Mark. Only Mark wasn't a man. The messages were intimate, too intimate. My hands shook as I scrolled through them. I put the phone down before he came back, acting like nothing had happened. I didn't confront him right away. I needed time to process, to be sure. I started watching him more closely. How often he left the room to take calls, how vague his explanations were. And each day, the truth became harder to ignore. The man I had trusted completely was slipping away from me. Not physically, but emotionally. I wanted to be wrong. I wanted Layla to be wrong. But deep down, I already knew something was breaking. The night everything fell apart started like any other. He had told me he was working late, so I decided to surprise him with dinner. I called a ride, picked up his favorite takeout, and headed to his apartment unannounced. My hands were full, and my heart was full of hope. Maybe we could fix whatever had started to feel off. I still believed in us. But when I walked in, I realized he wasn't alone. The moment the door opened, I saw her. She was sitting on the couch, laughing, wearing one of his hoodies. My stomach dropped. He looked just as shocked as I did. He froze, tried to speak, but I turned around and walked right out before I could hear a single excuse. I didn't need one. Everything that hadn't made sense before now fell perfectly into place. The late nights, the phone secrecy, the business trips, it was her all along. He chased after me, grabbing my arm, saying I misunderstood. I pulled away, not even angry, just empty. He tried to lie, but the truth was written all over his face. The worst part wasn't the betrayal. It was how familiar he looked doing it, like he had done it before, like lying was easy for him. I didn't yell. I didn't cry in front of him. I just walked away. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to replay every moment to see where I went wrong. Was I too available? Too trusting? Did I miss signs that were obvious to everyone but me? The next morning, he sent flowers and a long message. Apologies, excuses, half-truths disguised as explanations. He claimed he was confused, that he didn't know what he wanted, that she was a mistake. I didn't respond. What was there to say? The man who said he loved me had been sharing pieces of himself with someone else, and worse, he thought I wouldn't find out. Layla came over and didn't say, "I told you so." She just held me while I let everything out. The pain was sharp, but the humiliation was worse. I had defended him, protected him, and loved him without question. And he broke me without hesitation. He kept trying for a few days, calls, texts, voice notes filled with regret. But I blocked his number. Not out of anger, but for my own sanity. I couldn't keep listening to someone who only told the truth after they got caught. Everything I thought we had was a lie. I didn't just lose a boyfriend. I lost the future I had imagined, the memories I had trusted, and the version of myself who believed I was finally safe. It was over, and all that remained was silence and disbelief. The days that followed were quiet, but not peaceful. I deleted our photos, removed him from social media, and packed away the little reminders he left behind. At first, I thought the pain would break me. I couldn't eat. I barely slept. Everywhere I turned, something reminded me of him. The way he laughed, the way he held my hand, the way he made me feel like I was the only one. But now I knew better. I wasn't the only one. I was just the one who didn't know. I kept asking myself how I didn't see it. I'd been careful with love my whole life, guarding my heart like it was something fragile. And yet, I handed it over to someone who didn't know how to hold it. That realization hurt more than the betrayal itself. But eventually the pain started to dull, not because it stopped mattering, but because I started mattering more. I poured myself into healing. I journaled every thought, every hurt, every lie I wished I had questioned. I talked to friends. I walked alone just to remember what silence, without sadness, felt like. The world hadn't stopped moving, even though mine had. Slowly, I started to match its rhythm again. I began doing things I had let go of while I was with him. Reading late into the night, cooking for myself, dancing in the living room without caring who was watching. It wasn't about getting over him. It was about returning to myself, the version of me I had put on hold for a love that never truly saw me. There were moments of relapse, when I'd wonder if he ever missed me, if he realized what he threw away. But I learned not to stay in those moments. He made a choice, and I was finally making mine to move forward. Months passed, and the ache became less sharp. One day, I walked past the bookstore where we first met, and instead of feeling pain, I felt gratitude for the lesson, for the strength I didn't know I had, and for the reminder that even the most beautiful beginnings can have painful endings. But those endings can also be the start of something stronger. I don't hate him. I don't wish him harm. I hope he learns. I hope he becomes better. But I'll never let what he did define me. I am not the girl who got cheated on. I am the woman who walked away, who healed, who chose herself when everything in her wanted to fall apart. And now, when I think of love, I don't see him. I see me, whole, wiser, and unshakable. I never imagined this would happen to me. But maybe it had to, so I could finally become who I was meant to be.